School Board, and I do currently serve on Deerfield 109 School Board and kids. And you know, really, you know, we've been very, very involved in the community, obviously. There's, you know, it started with them, and it made me feel very obligated to give something to the community in which we live. And in my view, people are actually should look at themselves as important cogs in the entire system. And I felt compelled to run for school board, and I do currently serve on Deerfield 109 School Board. And my children have been the recipients of a wonderful education, and so I'm very proud to do that. The youth baseball thing is just been a passion of mine. My son's been involved since he was a little kid, so you know, do that as well. But very, very important also is being involved in volunteer organizations, and we try to impress upon the kids, and we try to set an example ourselves by volunteering wherever and whenever we get an opportunity at anything from Keshet activities to food pantry to, you know.
That's wonderful, because when we talked, it was interesting, because what I was concerned about, and I'm going to go back to our original question about why you're running for the circuit court system as being a judge, but something happened just recently that my granddaughter put something on Facebook, and you said you've got to be very careful, and I mentioned it to you, that you have to be very careful, and you have to tell the children what not to put on Facebook, what not to text, because it finally, eventually it haunts you and follows you when it comes to getting a job. And because I know somebody that put on their Facebook that they didn't like their boss was kind of stupid or something, and he read it, and the woman got fired. So you have to be very, very careful what you put on Facebook.
Right. Well, social networking is great. I mean, you know, people use it more and more every single day, and it's a terrific tool. But you're right, there's a lot of danger involved, and one of the things that we have to do is make sure that kids are educated. What we were talking about was that you knew of a situation where somebody put something up that was probably not the best idea, and what kids don't think of is that when they use their social networking tools in a way that's not nice or in a way that might be illegal, that they're going to suffer some pretty severe consequences. So one of the things that needs to be done is that you need to get in and early educate these children when they're in grammar school, before they ever get involved in the social networking, up through the time that they spend in the high school, because you can never tell them too many times. Like you said, a boss might research you. Universities definitely search the kids' names the times when they apply, and you sure wouldn't want something that you did when you were a little kid and some youthful indiscretion to come back and haunt you when you're trying to get in an important life place like a university or a job.
Like O'Donnell, the Senate, one's running for the Senate, that she said she was playing around with witchcraft, and now it's haunted her and followed her around. You have to be very careful what you say. Facebook, if you're on television, you have to be really careful what is said.
Right, and it's our job. It's our job as parents, grandparents, to make sure that these kids are educated. I know that the Deerfield Police Department and Highland Park Police Department run programs where they go into the schools and they actually talk to the kids, because, I mean, we could spend, obviously, the entire show talking about, the dangers that there are out there, but, suffice it to say, they need to be educated, and it's incumbent upon us to be the ones that educate them.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, let's go back to the original question. Why do you want
I forgot your original question.
The original question was, why do you want to be a judge? I mean, here you're an attorney. Why do you want to be a judge?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been practicing law for 20 years now, and my practice has been concentrated in very high-volume courtrooms. And one of the first areas that I practiced in really made like a lifelong impression on me. I wound up practicing in the juvenile court system. And when you go into the juvenile court system, I think that it impresses you for a number of reasons. You see people that are in really dire situations. They're either children that are accused of committing crimes, or they're families that are brought into the system for either abuse or neglect issues. And you understand immediately that when they're in the court system, the things that happen to them at that point affect not just those people individually, but you might affect generations by decisions that are made there. And I saw firsthand that the decisions that judges made for these people at the time that they were first in front of them could impact these people's lives in a myriad of ways. the judges that took the time to fully and fairly explore the cases, that understood the law, that allowed the lawyers to fully and fairly present the evidence in a court, and that took the time to make sure that they were rendering fair and impartial decisions based on the evidence that was in front of them, had amazing effects on people's lives. Not everybody, but obviously you reach who you can. And by the same token, you saw on occasion that there were people that were put and entrusted in these important positions that didn't necessarily take the time to understand the law fully, to explore the cases and the facts, to make sure that they gave a full and a fair hearing to everybody that was in front of them. And by the same token, they impacted people's lives in a negative way, maybe making decisions that wound up taking a child that was accused of doing something wrong, who may have benefited from some type of services, and maybe by not giving him the extra care and attention that he needed, maybe that person winds up in the criminal justice system.
And I think maybe having young children, you have so many children, you understand.
So many children, I collect them.
You collect all these children. You have, that you understand children and their needs, and being a young person. I mean, it's a different concept now. Before being a judge,
I was actually in court at the time that my wife went into labor with my first child, and one of the sheriffs came running in to tell me that they had an urgent call and I had to leave.
That is funny. But you also were the defense attorney on the Brown's Chicken massacre.
I was.
That was one of your famous cases, right? That you had to represent.
Very difficult case.
And that is a difficult case. And one of the things I wondered, obviously the prosecuting attorney also did a good job because they found, the right. You were representing one of the
two men accused.
The two accused. Now, how do you, if you don't have say a prosecuting attorney doesn't do a good job, like what happened with the O.J. Simpson trial.
I'm not commenting about.
We're not commenting, but since it's my words, and he, allegedly, we have to use always the word allegedly, got off. What do you do if somebody is they're guilty, or you have to defend them, right? You have to defend them to the best of your ability. I mean, it's always good to defend somebody because it could be that they've gotten people that were, that been put in jail that weren't the right person. So
True.
That's important. But when somebody is, say, guilty, and the prosecuting attorney does not do a good job, and that person goes free. Well, obviously your person didn't go free, but talk about that.
Well, you actually covered a lot of things in a short period of time. First of all, when you do defense work like I do, you have to really understand that the primary focus is to defend the system and to uphold the Constitution, because if the least of us aren't entitled to a good defense, then nobody's going to be entitled to a good defense. Sometimes you have to represent people in unpopular cases, and certainly my work defending Mr. Degorski and the Brown's Chicken case was one of those, and it made it more difficult, because who doesn't have sympathy and empathy for people that have suffered? And I can tell you that the time I spent in that courtroom with those families was just horrendous, and it had an incredible impact on my life. And one of the things that I did throughout that, and trying to recognize that, is we actually brought somebody on, a defense-based victim outreach person that was able to serve as a bridge to the victims' families. Not in any way controlled by me, hired by me, but it was meant to give them an ear, someone that they could talk to, because it was very important. It was very important that, or I felt that it was very important, that we be sensitive to those people in the case and recognize the fact that they were going through a very traumatic period. And it covered anything from just giving them sort of a heads up if something was going to be graphic in court, so that they would know that they could leave, and things that were sort of just giving them a way that they could participate.
The victims' families.
The victims' families.
Yeah.
Because we recognize...
Yet you were representing the...
That's right. And nothing
killers.
about that compromises the fact that your primary job is to make sure that you do your job as a defense lawyer, which is to give your client, as vigorous of a defense as you can. Because if you don't do that, if you don't do your work, and if you don't uphold the Constitution, then the safeguards that are in place for Mr. Degorski don't exist for anyone. And we need those safeguards in place. They are the cornerstone and the bedrock of our country.